Welcome to the Harness Racing Alumni Show, brought to you by Competitive Markets Action. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Bob Marks.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Joining us this week on our special show discussing the successful Standardbred breeding and racing program in the state of Kentucky, we have from Hunterton Farms, Steve Stewart, from Crawford Farms, Michelle Crawford, and from Diamond Creek Farms, Shaun Laungani. Steve, Michelle, and Shaun, welcome to the Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay. Now, guys, I want this to be like an open conversation, so jump in anytime that you want, but also, just say who you are when you talk. Steve, I'm going to start with you. Why has Kentucky emerged as the best place to be breeding and racing standardbreds?
Well, we used to not be able to say that, but I think we're heading in that direction for sure, if we're not already there. It pretty much started, I don't know how many, it's always more years than you remember, but it was when they passed the law in Kentucky for instant racing machines, and they had got it from, I think, Oaklawn or whatever, and they were able to copycat them. And then there was a really big court battle for a while. The something foundation or whatever, basically a church group had said that it was illegal, that it was not, that the racing could not use slot machines / instant racing machines or whatever. And then they do look like slot machines or whatever. But anyways, and then they finally settled it about 2 years ago or whatever. And then since then, it's really exploded. The Red Mile did not do hardly any advertising, waiting for it to get settled. But since then or whatever, it's generating an incredible amount of money, and for the program, and we've done a very, very good job of I think distributing the money. There is no Breeders' Award, so all the money goes to purses. And so, consequently, I think our program is between $20 and $25 million. But the main thing we try to do is to make sure that, and I think that's what really helps, is at the Red Mile, there's several. Get her back up. There's several tiers or whatever. We have 3 tiers plus the Wildcat, which is non-winners of like 2 races or whatever. So there's lots of different levels that you can race for at the Red Mile, and then we've got the other 2 tracks. So they've built 2 tracks that are in the south of the state, and they are generating a lot of money pretty much because of Tennessee has no casinos or no gambling there. So they've strategically put them along the state. One is north of Knoxville, and the other one is north of Nashville, and they generate an incredible amount of money. I mean, just to give you an idea, I haven't looked this year, but last year I looked on June 10th, the Oak Grove had bet $1.6 billion. That's with a B. $1.6 billion in handle for the machines at the track north of Nashville, which equates, at that time, it was 5 months and 10 days, which equaled, I think, $10 million a day, which is really incredible. So that's pretty much the reason.
Okay. Michelle, what encouraged you to move part of your breeding operation to Kentucky, and how do you find Kentucky different from New York?
Good question. I think we were a little bit ahead of it. We were starting to see the trend, and the money that was coming into Kentucky. And, we thought at that time it would be good just to have, some resident mares. And we're not in the stallion business, like Diamond Creek, but obviously with the stallion, you get the bonus program. And then if you have your mares sitting there for 180 days, you can go back and forth. But, we are a very large breeder, as you know, in New York. So we started to look at the program and starting to see the dribbles of, what the dually eligible yearlings were selling for. And we thought, hey, maybe we'll just get a plot of land and we'll just put some horses there and do residency, and we can make up, some of this income, for the farm in how we sell the yearlings. But the money it kept getting better and better. And I mean, to be honest, it kind of ballooned. We ended up buying a farm, and it's become more of a full geared operation, start to finish. And to have resident mares and mares that are shipping back and forth, I mean, you have a 5-day window. You've got to be very precise. So sometimes the math doesn't work out, but it's very, I mean, I've seen in the P&L alone, when you can show up in Lexington and say, hey, I have dually eligible, I mean, there's a premium for that. And buyers will buy something that they can race in New York and Kentucky. For whatever reason, it doesn't get around New York, or we've finagled the schedule a little bit so that they can actually race in all of the different programs. I mean, there are some conflicts and there's some work to be had with that, but you now you have 4-year-old programs in Kentucky. The bonus programs by themselves are worth it all day long, and you have Oak Grove, and then you go right to the Red Mile, and you have all of the different series, and then you have Cumberland, late closers, and the late races for the stakes and at the end of the year. So I don't see how you don't consider it. I think you're at a loss if you're a farm and you don't have either dually eligible or a farm in Kentucky.
Okay. Shaun, can you tell us a little bit more about the stallion incentives and the dual eligibility?
Sure, Freddie. So it takes a minute to explain sometimes. We're trying to work on how to shorten it so you can really understand it really easily. But essentially, if you breed to a stallion that's based in Kentucky, and the mare is also a resident of Kentucky for 6 months in the year that she's bred, well, then that resulting foal will receive 50% purse bonus on any money earned in Kentucky Sire Stakes, any of the breed development races, all divisions, all levels, including the fairs at all 3 tracks in Kentucky. So last year, Luna Lovegood was kind of the big winner of Kentucky. I think she made the most for this eligible bonus program because she's by the stallion chimpanzee that we stand in Kentucky. And so those owners received over $60,000 in money. I don't even know if they were expecting at the end of the year, which was 50% purse bonus on the money she had earned in those races.
Okay. Now, this question is pretty much for everyone. What is Kentucky doing to prepare for the onslaught of people, meaning trainers and other breeders and owners, all moving to Kentucky? Steve, we'll start with you.
Well, the one major thing was that the Red Mile is not open for winter training. And so there was a great lack of stalls and places for trainers to train. And they were able to, some entrepreneurial guys from Versailles, educated people call it Versailles, but us Kentucky people call it Versailles, which is about 15 miles from Lexington, and probably about 2 miles from Crawford Farms, right down past the airport or whatever. They're building a training center. And I think
Wait, they didn't put that in for me, Steve?
What's that?
They didn't put that in just for me?
Well, it's just getting the truth out. Anyway. But anyway, I need to fold this mare, but I'm going to come right back to you guys. You all talk.
It's certainly closest to Michelle, the High Bramble Park property, and it's on Paynes Mill Road. It's probably only 3 minutes down the road from Crawford Farms, and it's probably only 25 minutes with traffic from the Red Mile. I know they'd hoped to have it done this spring. We had a terrible winter, but I know they're moving a ton of dirt, putting up barns as fast as they can, trying to have it ready as soon as they can. I believe they have a fair date approved to have fair racing there in August. And then, as far as I know, as many stalls as they can build, there are trainers that are ready to move horses in. So the demand is there. So I would imagine you're going to see a big Midwest migration trainers moving their operations, at least part of them, this way.
Hey, Shaun, now the handles everything is up in Kentucky right now. The Kentucky Derby had 340 million viewers watch it this year. That's a record from like 1989. And I was just told that Oak Grove, the handle is up 24%. Do you see the handles increasing in Kentucky now that everything's starting to move and focus there?
Thoroughbred-wise, I think on the biggest days, yes. The average days in Kentucky, yes, as well, because the field sizes have been so good with all the HHR funds and we have maiden races go for up to $120,000, and everybody in the country wants to race here. What we, in the standardbred world, like Oak Grove's success here recently, kudos to them, is out of creativity and good. I think it's good card planning. I don't know if anybody noticed, but they ran like they raced like 4 5/8 races the other day on a day where they had 4-year-old Kentucky Sire Stakes races. And they were fascinating. I mean, you had, the track isn't set up perfect for a 5/8 like it is in the Meadowlands necessarily, but you had 2 and 3 wide all the way around. I mean, some really exciting racing, and I'm sure that's part of why their handle's doing better. All the tracks need to continue to be creative with their conditions and the race planning, just to put out a competitive product. We have all this money, all this stakes development money, or breed development money available, but it's no substitute for the race secretaries. Like, you still have to do that job well to get the people watching.
Now, in Kentucky, we haven't...
I think Keeneland, though, was down a little bit. I think the weather had something to do with it this year. But when you're racing, even with the thoroughbreds, the money in Kentucky, the bonuses for the thoroughbreds, are incredible.
Yeah, an example of a bonus for the thoroughbreds, Michelle.
Sorry?
An example of what is a typical bonus for the thoroughbreds compared to the standardbreds?
Well, for instance, we have we raced just one. We were lucky enough with Wesley Ward to race one of our Chancelot thoroughbreds, a starter, 2-year-old starter. We didn't expect to start so soon. And I think they went into, it was a $90,000 race for 90. Unfortunately, she was New York bred. But the purse, she won. And the purse, I think it was like $35,000 as opposed to 90, because she wasn't Kentucky bred, and so that just shows you like the money that's there. So, usually we have, we're strategic. Chancelot stands right behind Bramble Park in for sales, but it's kind of crazy. The money and the bonus programs that are set in, New York, the same thing, but we're talking about Kentucky. So when you start to look at it, there's a lot of money there, and I don't think they can spend it all.
I don't know if Steve is back, but this is for both Shaun and Michelle. Do you think that they've hit the ceiling in Kentucky, or do you see more growth coming? Either one of you.
So the ceiling is there because there is a cap. Like, there's what they're calling a soft cap. It's a little confusing, but they call it a soft cap on the breed development fund. So essentially, once the breed development fund receives a certain amount of money, then the percentage of the cut lessens for any additional monies. So there is a bit of a plateau, and it can't just keep growing exponentially. So, like, if people aren't really in tune to it, the growth that they've seen these last 2-3 years out of Kentucky, you can't expect that every year. But there's definitely room for some growth. I think the biggest piece is that, like, competitively, these slot machines are very attractive here to the public because we don't have anything else. There are no table games. There are no online games. There is sports betting and horse betting, but there's no competitive product yet for those games. Eventually that will come, and that could potentially decrease things. But I think there's a good run, like a foreseeable future, like 10, 15-year run to this, because Kentucky is behind, like a lot of the rest of the country, especially in the Northeast, that has kind of had all of this for a long time and has been through. You can kind of look to like other states and see, okay, how long do the slots have before other stuff comes in? And so because the horse industry has so many lobbyists and is so connected politically. I think you'll see protection for the slot machines and the money they produce for the races. So, yeah, like, I think short answer, it's a long, rambling answer, but the short answer is, like, I think there's a good foreseeable future run to this.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that is probably the most important is there is no casino companies that own any of this. They're all owned. All the racetracks, like every state, has casinos or something, usually except New Jersey, attached to it. The difference in Kentucky is there is no MGM Grand. There is no Harrah's. It's all the tracks and everything is owned. All the machines and everything are owned by the tracks. So there's one less entity that we have to worry about trying to stop us. Basically, the casino company in Kentucky is Churchill Downs, who owns Oak Grove. So that is a huge help for us, is the fact that we don't have anybody, we don't have to worry about a casino company saying, okay, we're tired of the horses, let's lobby and try to get the legislature to change the rules. So that's probably one of the biggest advantages we have.
Steve, Freddie here. Do you think other states could copy what Kentucky's doing?
Well, I think the Meadowlands has tried, or in the process of maybe, or whatever, is trying to get these machines at the Meadowlands. You know, before we talked about wanting to, when all this was happening, there was a lot of people saying, well, we need to have casinos in Kentucky and we'll put them at the racetracks. But once that started talking or whatever, Joe Costa did an excellent job in making us all realize that we don't want casinos. What we want is these machines so that you didn't have the competition from the table games and everything like that, because a lot of times you don't get the share of that. You more or less just get the share. I think in Pennsylvania we just get the machines, not the table games.
Yeah,
so it worked out.
Steve, let me just interrupt here for 1 second. When we say machines, we're talking about the historical horse racing slots, correct?
Yes, that is correct. That's correct. Bring her out.
Okay, and so the Meadowlands might be looking to do that. Would that pass the state legislation and stuff?
Well, who knows? You know how that goes or whatever. Usually the darkest day is when you finally, Ohio looked like it was dead, and then Kasich came in and said, we're going to put the machines at the racetracks or whatever, and then it rejuvenated the New York or Ohio. So, you never say never, but, it's something that needs to be looked at. Obviously their problem is they've got tremendous competition or problem with Atlantic City. Once you get casinos there, really that's what happened in Illinois. That the riverboats got there before the racetracks, and then they were able to keep it away from the racetrack. So we got lucky in New York and Pennsylvania, and now in Kentucky and Ohio. Ohio had them, but Kasich was good enough to help us. Anyway, I got to run. Let me get this bowl out. But you all keep talking. Keep talking.
Steve was delivering a foal at this particular time, in case anyone didn't know. That's right. All right, Steve, good luck. Now, Shaun and Michelle, do you think that in the future we could possibly see the Hamiltonian racing at the Red Mile?
Good question. That I don't know.
The reason I asked that question, I'll be real clear on it, is the rumor out there is that the Meadowlands will be closing if they don't get a casino in by 2027. So I've heard that.
Personally, I would love to see the Hamiltonian 1 year at the Red Mile. I think it's a great track. I think there's no better venue. I love it in the fall. I'm not sure that we're going to see that happen. I don't know. Shaun, what do you think?
Yeah, I've heard the rumor too, Freddie. I don't know. I think it completely depends on Jeff Grau there and what he wants to do. And none of us know kind of exactly where things are headed with some of the news that comes out of the Meadowlands. But the Meadowlands is so important to our sport. By all means, we need that place to be successful. So let's hope, honestly, that it doesn't have to move anytime soon.
I agree 100%.
We need that place strong, and we need that ownership group to be doing well. I would love to see the Breeders' Crown at the Red Mile.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I did hear that rumor, and I was hoping, maybe the Breeders' Crown could shuffle around a little bit, more so than, the Hamiltonian is a sure thing. They do a great job with it, and it's a big weekend, and, that's coupled with just such a big stakes weekend in the kindergarten and all of the good races at the Meadowlands Pace before that. So, you got to spread the wealth a little bit also. I don't see Jeff wanting it to leave the Meadowlands anytime soon, for sure.
Now, let's talk about the Breeders' Crown a little bit. Do you think if, let's say we had the Breeders' Crown at the Red Mile, could we draw a crowd of at least 50,000?
No. Short answer is no, unfortunately. I would love to think that we could, but in these modern times, and like Michelle deserves a lot of credit. She partnered with the Red Mile, Crawford Farms did last fall, to do like a Sunday night series, and they roll out the red carpet for folks, concerts and games, entertainment, all kinds of stuff for the families, and they drew like not really nice crowds for us down here. But just in modern times with harness racing, like we're nowhere close to those level crowds. Unfortunately, it's just the reality.
No, and
the reason
I don't think the Red Mile can handle that amount of people anyway. The infrastructure is just not set up for that. And we tried everything. We had live entertainment in there, and I think that's just something that that type of a crowd would be. I don't see it happening, and it's hard enough to get people to even realize the Red Mile's there and that there's racing, and trying to collab with Keeneland and UK and the student section and stuff like that to try to get groups in. So there's so much going on, and there's so much growth, but I don't see it in time. I don't see it rolling out into the Breeders' Crown event.
Okay. But yeah, because I'm just looking at like what they do for the Kentucky Derby over there at Churchill Downs. Over 150,000 people in the pouring rain. I mean, that is amazing to me. And
well, I think
the Derby's got that one thing going for it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Michelle. I didn't mean to talk over you. The Derby being a bucket list item for people has just made it to where like it's such a big tourism event. It's just something where that history and people want to go to at least one in their life. Just amazing the amount of people they draw.
Okay, Michelle, you were going to say?
Just that. I just think the Derby has become, they're infamous. They're drawing stars. They're drawing, it's just a whole different ball game. And I think that, typically harness racing has been like the, ugly step sibling or something like that. But as hard as we work on it, and as much as we try to bring awareness to people around us and introduce harness racing, I'm still not sure that we're ever going to get the same pull or the same crowd draw that they do in the thoroughbreds.
Yeah, I know that. I know that when I lobby in Washington D.C., I was with it was one of the Ohio officers. I don't remember who, but my first question is that I always ask, "Are you familiar with harness racing?" And pretty much everyone says no, no, no. Then I have to explain what harness racing is. But on this one occasion, the person said, "Oh yes, I used to work at the Red Mile," and I thought that was funny as hell. But Bob, now you've been pretty quiet. Did you have anything to add?
No, I've just been listening. I think it's wonderful what the program has developed into. So, no, I have nothing to add.
I think this year, everything is a little bit of growing pains. I think you have Emily Gaskin now that, transferred over from Indiana, and she's been doing a great job and working with the ownership and Joe and bringing new things. And like I said, the entertainment, we've tried to make Sunday nights for the stakes night just hey, you're not racing in Keeneland, and then when you are, there's nothing on Sunday evening, so come on over. So Gabe did a great job last year. Sad to see him go. But I think Kentucky is going to catch on a little bit. I think with Bramble, you're going to get more of the trainers in there. I mean, if you could have horses and overnights, that's just going to help overall draw more people in. So I do think it's on the up and coming. I'm not sure that we're going to ever be Keeneland or Churchill Downs. So we'll see.
Okay. With that, I'm going to close the show out. Michelle, Shaun, and Steve, who's gone now, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Freddie.
Thanks for having us.
That's our pleasure. That's a wrap for this week's broadcast. Thanks for listening, and please don't forget to join us again next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show.